Morning, everyone. I'm Pastor Craig, and it's time for the kids' time. So, one of the things I love about summer in the Bay Area is that the lantana bush that's in my yard blossoms and blooms and turns this amazing orange and red and all the colors in between. It is something that brings me joy and it brings me peace. Now, I was telling one of my friends in Australia that I love this time of year because the lantana is blossoming. And they went, "Mate, lantana? That's a weed." Well, I think it's beautiful regardless of if it's a weed or a blossoming flower. Today, I want to talk to you about God, the amazing, outrageous gardener. And it's kind of a continuation or even a sequel to last week's parable. Jesus tells us that there was a farmer who threw lots of amazing pure seed and it blossomed fully, but as it continued to grow, weeds started to pop up, and so much so that the roots were intertwined, so much so that if you pulled the weeds out, it would also pull out the blossoming flowers. Jesus says that the kingdom of heaven is like this. There are times in our lives, as we talked about in lessons past, where we hit God's mark and it's like a beautiful blossoming flower. And there are times where we miss God's mark and we do things that we mean not to do. And that could be like a weed. And both of those actions intertwine like this, and that happens inside of us. We can't say, "Oh, look at all of the good, beautiful flowers over there, and all of the weeds we'll put over there, and we'll get rid of the weeds later." The weeds and the flowers are not separate entities, but they are both of us at the same time. Martin Luther might say that just as we are simultaneously saint and sinner, we might be, in this case, simultaneously beautiful flower and weed. It's not something that can get separated out until the fullness of time comes, when that time where we are reunited fully with God, that the time of purification can come and move us into love and grace, into God's embrace. The weeds and the flowers, they're going to grow in our lives because that is human nature, but it's also part of God's nature that God unifies us and pulls us into the beautiful bouquet that is the kingdom of heaven. So remember, when you start talking about "look at that weed over there," you might be talking about a beautiful flower in someone else's eyes. And be careful when you say, "look at that really beautiful bouquet over there, aren't they perfect?" Well, no one's perfect. We all hit God's mark and we miss God's mark. And isn't that a beautiful thing that God reconciles and makes full and holy when we come into God's graceful embrace and graceful embrace? Amen.